Boom! Hello and welcome to Tea Party Media, episode 12. I am Martin Lindeskog. Hello, Harry. How are you
Hello,
doing?
how are you, Martin?
Fine. And now I have, you could say, the founder, developer, manager of everything of a tool that we are using right now. So it's saying now the session is being recorded. So, so that's great. And then we will also test the live feature here also. So please, Harry, what's on your mind?
Well, Martin, I've listened to some of your sessions, so I was going to ask you. You said right before the session you made some tea. Tell us
Yeah,
about the tea that you just made, and
yeah,
what's your favorite tea?
yeah,
You're an
and that's
expert,
all.
so I'm curious.
Yeah, and that's often what so I have for notes my note card that I had for last time or latest time with Martin of Podfriend, and then I because I have this new site called teaparty.media, so I want
Mm.
to drum into this domain name and so on I talk about. So thanks for that question. So right now I'm drinking a tea, a simple, easy tea called from Sri Lanka, but Ceylon tea,
Yeah.
and it's in almost this aluminum foil and very retro image of a guy from Sri Lanka, from Ceylon, and it's like a pretty big package for a good price, a good value. But there you could have, to joke a bit, surprises. It's not the finest grade, so you could have all kinds of things that were put in it. I'm joking now, but it's a
Yeah.
good kappa for the price that you're getting.
Mm.
And I like that it's still that you could get that. So there you have this free trade and global trade. That in because in Sri Lanka, former then Ceylon, and we recommend you stopping the recording before hanging up the call. No, yes. So keep on. So this we'll talk about all these nice features here.
Yeah.
So it's a good, in Ceylon and Sri Lanka, as it is called now, it's big export. Tea is big export. So this kind of package and this product is it still have been around for a long time, and it's like an agent that have found them and been good at putting them in the grocery store. So it's a black tea, and I prefer it with a little milk, a splash of milk. So that's it's pretty hot now, so maybe iced tea would be, better in a way. But
Is it?
it's my daily
So
drink.
yeah, there's an interesting uh, sidebar to this. So I was born in southern India
Yeah,
and state called Kerala.
the spice region.
Yes, and we have tea exports. It's one of the largest tea exporters in India,
Mm,
and it's also super close to Ceylon or Sri Lanka.
yeah,
So of course, it's not reachable by land, but
yeah,
it's very close. And the weather, many of the ecosystem, vegetation are very similar. So, but there is a different way we drink tea where I grew up.
okay.
And I'm sure, being a tea expert, you've come across this, right? So I grew up drinking tea by boiling with milk and sugar, and we call it chai,
Chai, yes,
CHAI.
with
Yeah.
spices and yep,
And we drink tea several times during the day. Twice a day is almost a requirement. You will,
yeah,
if you're at any home in my state, you will be served tea twice a day,
yeah.
and you can always have tea anytime, any number of times. So tea has a pretty big role to play in India, in southern India for sure.
And now that's why I'm listening to you, but I'm trying to multitask at the same time. So now I changed the privacy setting on Facebook, so now it's live public also on the stream here.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very good. So it's
So
working now.
yeah, so we'll check YouTube and LinkedIn later on also. So that's great. So tea is an important thing, and it's the second most popular beverage in the world. That was the title of my first book on about black tea, on black tea, and I have
Mm.
my vision to do a whole series about it because it's very important drink. But then also other drinks. You are drinking coffee, right?
Yes, and actually, after I moved to the U.S., and it's been a long time. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been here 25 plus years. I have really kind of shifted to coffee, but it's easier to drink coffee. It's easier to make coffee.
Mm.
Uh, Trying to boil milk tea and all that, in the morning, it's just a lot of work, especially when you're barely awake. So,
Yeah. And that's the challenge. But I could tell you how you could do that. But that's from probably for another time. But I see the mental thing. But
right,
that could lead into in another top area. I want it to be easy. I think tea, the whole process of boiling water in a tea kettle to feel the leaves, to let it brew or steep and have some relaxation and maybe almost meditation, and then think about it and then appreciation of it and hold the cup and feel it. So, but I hear that that could be a so-called a block, and I really feel that in technical things with tools. There, I
sure,
want it to be very simple, easy, only to press a button.
yes.
So, could you tell a little bit about that Boomcaster that we are using? What's your idea, your
Yeah,
mission? Why did you start it
yeah.
with that?
So technology in general, is meant to help us, enable us, make our lives easier.
Yep,
So, so when I first started podcasting, although I paused, I started with a podcast about 2.5, 3 years ago.
yep,
Actually, it's more than 3 years ago. And my co-host was located in Houston, and we wanted to we wanted to record in high quality and also live stream at the same time.
mm,
And that kind of narrowed down the number of options I had to very limited. It's almost non-existent at the time.
mm,
We could record just audio. Even video wasn't an option back then. Live stream tools were just live stream tools. They were not podcasting tools. So there was a little bit of a bifurcation in the market. There were live streaming tools, then there were
yep,
audio tools. So I really wanted to bring together all of these to make it easier for someone who wants to share their views with the world. So, which is what podcasting is all about, right?
yep.
Being able to freely talk about, there you go. I like
The
that t-shirt,
messengers.
the messages.
Yep,
You got to tell me more about that in a minute.
yep,
But yeah, so that basically got me started. And my mission really was not really technology centric. It was about making this process awesome.
YouTube is working. Yep,
Yeah, making this process really super easy, simple for someone who is, whether it's a technology savvy podcaster or someone who wants to be able to get on and start talking and sharing their views with the world, right? So that was my objective: make it simple, easy, reliable.
yep.
And today, I feel pretty good about where I am with the simplicity and the capabilities that I offer in that package, where someone can fairly easily get on and do the things they want to do, whether it's live streaming to YouTube, LinkedIn, or record in high quality video, audio, all of that, really in
Yeah,
a few clicks.
and this is LinkedIn, and you managed to do that to get it into
Yes.
LinkedIn also. And that's a challenge in that in itself, right?
Yeah. Well,
Could you
LinkedIn
tell a little
in.
bit about that? Like this is fine details, but my co-host of another podcast, Deborah, that is now testing your service, she knew how to do this by herself and by hand, but it's lots of things to do, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so could you tell a bit little? I mean, you are not working for LinkedIn, but their settings, and do you think why did they start to live streaming at all? And do you think that will be something that will grow? Lots of questions at the same time.
yeah, 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 yeah. I can only share with you my perspective, right? I think
Yep,
LinkedIn is, much like all of these platforms have different levels of maturity, right?
yep,
Coming into live streaming, YouTube started so early, and they have, their live streaming is really well proven, and it's rock solid, right?
it is.
Facebook came along afterwards,
Mm,
and LinkedIn is kind of the newest entrant, and
mm,
it's only been there for like 3 years or so, or and even this past 3 years, I would say I've seen the service starting to improve, right? And you can't just start streaming; you have to get approval from them to stream,
mm,
and they want to make sure, So anyway, I think they're getting better. I don't know how much live streaming happens on that platform. That I do not know, because YouTube seems to be the king of streaming still, right?
yeah. And we could talk about that. This is a little bit, we'll go back and forth about it's a meta also for me as podcasting. For me, first and foremost is audio, because one of the advantages you could do other things.
Yeah,
But I like the live stream things in order, as you have said, you could be found, you could reach out in different ways. And of course, you have a body language and other things like that. But then, of course, it's a challenge to is it worth a time investment, and also, editing, and how would you look at it as a content material,
yeah,
like a product? Because we all have tics, for example, and when you listen to it and you're live,
yeah,
compared to audio, it could be in a different way.
yeah,
But I like it is, again, as I have on my site, Tea Party Media, that I could help individuals, organizations, brands, personal brands, and companies and so on, small business owners, to find their personal diamond, like a facets. I know your, situation, your person a little bit more now, and how you could reach out and you could see a facet of your life and your career and what you're doing and what you're passionate about,
yeah,
and that's fascinating also. So, and as you said, podcasting, often it's about the message, and that's it was the t-shirt that I'm wearing, but when I'm talking now about it in the later on forthcoming edited post-production episode, then you will not see the t-shirt. But of course I could put an image, I could put a chapter in it of a selfie, for example.
mm,
So this is podcasting 2.0.
yeah,
But it's nice to see it if you're now live. But I'm very realistic. I don't have a huge following on YouTube. If it will be on Twitter also in the future, but what's going on with Twitter, we will see. But that will be a nice, also destination, I think. And I think personally they will move along more of it. But then it's depending on what you call it. So I'm
right,
both for the, you know, original one, and especially to support the RSS feed, but then also to protect it and preserve it, but also to extend it. And we'll come back into that. And that's what we are doing now. We do live. So one namespace tag called live item tag. And I have talked about that. And I'm not a tech person.
yeah,
So I have to wait for my main podcast host like Captivate to implement it in the future. But then, of course, they have to see a model. They have done adding lots of podcasting 2.0 features recently, and great job there. But then, of course, they have to see, is it any demand for it? But here we are in an early age, you could say,
yeah,
doing live streaming, sending boostergrams at the same time, being almost like a co-producer of a content, because you are having chat function and so on. It's lots of things going on. But in the past, as you are talking about, this hybrid of vlogging, you have to explain what you mean by that. Or it's both podcasting, it's live, and it's video. And now I look at the screen at the bottom. If it's I see the YouTube symbol, I see the Facebook symbol, and the LinkedIn. Then the multitasking is if somebody will start talking, because then you could do that, comment on things like on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and YouTube. And I'm concentrating on our conversation, but it's great to have this potential and
yeah,
possibility. So
right.
again,
And
lots of
within
thoughts and ideas and questions. So you're take it away, Harry.
Yeah, so in Boomcaster, if you
Yeah,
clicked on the chat, you will have the ability to see comments, chats on the
yeah.
live stream, right? So okay, so you've used that feature before. Yeah, I think you mentioned podcasting 2.0. I mean, what's super exciting about that is the three things that I see, right? I'm not an expert myself, But the decentralization aspect of it, I think that is amazing, because that's, I really want to see this, this sort of medium really
Mm.
thrive, and not have any sort of uh, uh, you know um, uh,
Gatekeepers.
yes, correct. So, and it's great the way it is, and I want it to continue, right?
Mm.
So that decentralization element of it is really amazing. The other part is monetization, right? I think you've
Mm.
mentioned that, and I think that's really cool, because I think that may come in with the live element as well. I think
Yeah.
that's when probably that would really kick in really well. But that monetization element is big, and I think it's important. And then of course, the other features that you just mentioned, all these new features that we're adding to podcasting. So really, I'm a big supporter of it, as a you know as a small company.
Mm.
We are, we sometimes operate linearly when we develop, not sometimes, always
Mm.
linearly go with feature sets, right?
Yeah.
Because we have, a small team, and it's like, hey, we're gonna go do this first or that first. should
Yeah.
we do you know should we do this later or now? So they have to make some really tough choices along the way.
Yeah.
And this is something that is on my radar, and I would love to make it easier for yourself and other streamers to be able to do this, again, the same way I've tried to make it for other platforms, right? You're recording, but you know you can just do a checkbox, and you're able to stream, right? So it's just as easy as it's going to get, and I would love to get to that phase
Yeah.
for podcasting 2.0 as
And
well.
this is this big hairy idea that I heard yesterday on a Friday when I was listening live on a new podcast app called Podverse, and I got a notification that it's live. So when you hear a bit about they talking before, like in green room and other things like that, and then they have a chat, I interrelay chat also. So you
Yeah,
really in, and then they look at that at the same time as they're talking. And Adam there, he had this idea now with, because you could apply this on music also, to the artist and to the cover art, album art, to studio musicians, whatever, all kind of things. But then they took up an idea. What's, for example, at the conference, for indie speakers like that are not, how do you say, not there to pitch something, but to talk about their expertise or passion or whatnot, to be sitting and listening at the same time, having it live, and then have some kind of QR code for this wallet, you could say, for a
yeah,
better word, like streaming a Satoshi or sending a boostergram. I mean, that interaction, that could be really interesting. What could come out of that?
I
And
see.
then, of
Yeah,
course, it's nice if it's easy to set up
yeah,
for a non-techie person, that you
right.
you set it up and you do going live, and then you will know that it will be destinated in different platforms,
Yeah,
and also that you then could have it archived, and then you could do other things with it also in the future. But then it's all these technical details. So how is your approach to that, when you are developing new features
I
and thinking of what could this
what to
be
add.
used for?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very, I will tell you that there are times we develop things and never add,
Mm.
because and I've removed things,
Mm.
partly because if I feel there's complexity that's being added, because
Mm.
software is a balance
Mm.
between ability to do a ton of stuff and the ability to use it easily, right? And you can go heavy on either, right? It can be really simple to use, and then users will say, well, it's really easy, but it doesn't do anything. you know
Yeah.
and then you could go on the other end. It's like, hey, it's really it's really good, but it's complicated to use, right? So the walking the middle line and being balanced is really complex. If anything, that's the hardest thing in making any sort of software, right? So I mean, I try my best to collect very regular feedback from folks like yourself who use it regularly and others.
Mm.
And I try to keep a pulse on it. What are users struggling with? Are they seeing something that they're confused about? Are they getting messages that they're so you said there was a little pop-up that just went right through, right?
Yeah,
Why we did that, because sometimes when you get into the conversation and you get excited and you're like really passionate about the topic, and then you forget that you're on a recording platform, right? Which is great.
mm,
We want it to be that way. We want to go into the background and let you be, talking, and that should be the way it is. But you forget and you just close and just walk away, and that could prevent us from finishing up, let's say, a download if or upload if that we're trying to do an upload. So it's just kind of simple reminders and things like that, and warnings, and kind of messages, just to kind of prod the user, if whether it's a host or a guest, to say, hey, you're recording, everything is going great, this is what you should do at the end.
yeah,
And we're continuing to optimize the experience. Actually,
and
we're
to,
working on just on Monday or Tuesday, we're going to release some new features, and
sure.
one of them is I'm looking at redoing the icons that you see at the bottom. I think there's one too many icons, right,
Yeah,
or buttons, right?
yeah,
And I want to be giving that control to you as a host to decide what you want to see there. And so you can pin whatever buttons you want, and then leave out the ones that you don't want to see.
yeah.
I will
That,
be changing, the layout slightly to make it usable. We're also adding some other things, like you sometimes want to start a podcast instantly and not want to schedule, and
yeah,
so that, or if you wanted to, let's say, use a single static link to continue recording, and you want to be able to change the name of the session and the dashboard later. So all usability things, like, continue to focus on
yeah,
making sure that it's super easy and simple for a host, I mean, to be able to use it, but also for the guest, even easier, right? Because the
yeah,
guest should not be
yeah.
worried about anything when they come on.
And where I have now, until I forget it, where I
Yeah,
will have one example of what's going on in the social media world, and also what you could do, Harry, if you have time, energy, and budget in a way. And let's talk more about this. So now, right now, what I'm popping up here, I don't know if you see it, because it's maybe when disturbing the live thing, but I clicked on the icon, looks like a phone, or a device or something like that,
yeah,
and that's you. Then I could see the participant info.
yes,
So right now it's saying, and this laughs, you learn about it and then you forget about it because it's so technical. But
yeah.
I see it's something going on with the laughs
Yeah,
minus.
so we added that as an
Yeah,
experimental feature to
yeah,
check the loudness level. So it's
yeah,
an integrated value. We look at a few seconds of audio sample, and then we average the loudness
yeah,
value, and then basically telling you that, hey, sometimes, the guest may be too close to the mic, maybe too far away from the mic. So that loudness value kind of lets you kind of get a feel for, hey, are we recording at the right level of volume?
okay, that's
what
good.
what happens in the web browser is that, some of that may be compensated for,
Mm.
and but in the local recording, where you're recording really high quality, we want to make sure that you have the right level of and again,
Uh,
we have other mechanisms as well. You have the green bar on
yeah,
the
I
there.
see that. Yeah.
It does a very similar thing.
Mm.
It's not an integrated value, but it's real time, and it
Yeah,
tells you, if you're going into yellow and red,
yeah,
you may want to tell your guests to kind of back off a little bit, because you may be clipping, right?
yeah. Okay, and that's good. So now I get all these ideas. And for example, I have echo cancellation on because it's
Yeah,
like standard. But you said because I have my microphone pretty good placed, I think. And then I had the monitoring headphones into the microphone. So it
Yeah,
shouldn't be any so-called round, how do you call it, disturbance.
correct.
So
Yeah.
I should be able to click this off. But what would happen if I will do that during now live streaming and recording at the same time? Will that
Um,
have an effect or?
yeah. So the difference is that when you turn on, so by the way, by default we leave the echo cancellation on. That is simply because of safety reasons.
Yeah,
If you are wearing a headphone like you and I are,
yeah,
then you can definitely disable that and you will get a higher quality recording, like you said, right? Because what echo cancellation is doing, it is doing some audio processing to to manage when folks talk over each other, right? We
mm,
talk simultaneously, and it's trying to do processing to enable that. But in the process, the audio will get impacted. So if you just turned on echo cancel, off echo cancellation, that processing will not happen on either side. Of
mm,
course, you can control it by the user. But when you, if you're a host, you get on and you see somebody not wearing headphones, I would recommend that they, suggest, hey, do you have a headphone to wear? I mean, that would be a good recommendation. But if they don't, then just leave the echo cancellation on. And that way you would be fine. Now, if you were to change this during the recording session,
mm,
uh, nothing bad's going to happen. It's just that on the back end, when we do
mm.
the local recording will split into two parts.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And then you'll just need to combine on the back end. Or when, if you're using our compost file, we will
Mm,
do this automatically for you.
yeah. So now, and I really feel that we will do a follow-up here, Harry, because we are going all direction. I hope our listeners would enjoy this also. This is the challenge again. You could have a set of questions and ask very specific about the service or product, or you could have a general discussion also that's going back and forth and interesting conversation, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, but I see now, and I will put you a little bit of a spot when you definitely need a podcast, like a tool that I still use because it's only audio and you could have several guests also. You have a green room function, and some prefer that also, or it's a good like a backup. We had an issue when we used another one, Alitu's own call recorder, when something was happening with Boomcaster, and I have had it with Ringer, etc. So it could have. So in a way, it's good to have several ones, but of course you have to pay for that also.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is this how you could develop a service and a product over time. And Ringer, they had their own because one of the co-founders there, he Sinclair. Tim Sinclair, he is like a radio presenter, an announcer, and sport commentator, and so on. So he created a podcast called My Worst Interview Ever. And then he had guests talking about things, mishaps, and what could happen, and so on. And then the whole thing, of course, the backdrop, so to speak, is that it's so easy to use Ringer. So in the future, you don't have to have that these mishaps. Of course, it could happen also. And they had, always, when you develop a product and things changes, like we talked about Chrome and the new version. What could happen then? You never know, right? So, but you definitely should have a podcast or a, live streaming, or what do you have a made up word there also? What do you call it? V log or V pod or
Vodcasting, yeah.
vodcasting, and that's
Video
standing for
casting, yeah.
yeah,
No, that's a great point. I definitely have a lot of energy. There's no shortage of
yeah,
that, but it's the shortage is the time, right?
yeah,
So, but we recently started, with Marcus, we did a live
yeah,
stream,
yeah. That
and
was
we plan to do that.
great.
We want to do a summer series,
Yeah,
at least starting once a month,
yeah,
do a live stream. I feel Marcus is an expert in just audio in general and plus video. And if you've
yeah,
seen his studio,
yeah. Wow,
that is,
impressive.
it's impressive. Is more
To say
than
at
what most
least.
people would want to have.
Yeah,
But it's also a good way for us, all of us, including myself, to learn.
mm,
So just knowing him it's been a great experience. And Marcus is a big fan of Boomcaster, and he recommends us to others. So I'd like to do some of that with Marcus, and continue to, and that's part of what I'm thinking about.
Yep.
You know, that because that I really what I really want is to kind of like you said help podcasters, right? And so we would want to invite other people that are experts in certain technology or certain elements of podcasting, and be able to guide the users in real time as a live session, right? So
Yeah.
I'd like to continue to do that, but what's been stopping me has been the time that I
Yeah,
could
I
spend
hear
on
you.
it.
And as I said, you can't have too many podcasts, but I have in a way, and it's the time issue then, of course.
Yeah,
But I see what you could do with it in different ways. And thanks to a podcaster, Danny Brown, is also working for at Captivate,
yeah,
his podcast host. I mean, I learned about your tool. Of course, I probably would learn it sooner or later, but
yeah.
again, it's to find it and word of mouth. So, do
That's
you want
true.
to talk a little bit about that? Marketing,
Yeah,
social media, and I have this example of like Mastodon or Fediverse, but it's in a way it's very simple to use it, but to get onboarded to it, it's not very simple because it's
yeah,
a hassle to know this technical thing. And the first reaction is, "What's this? This looks very old or very strange." But then you get the hang of it. So then
yeah,
you have that kind of dilemma. But that's this, as we talked about, the gatekeepers and doing your own thing. And it's interesting with this competition and what's coming on. But then, as you said, marketing, because it's other players out there that during the time that you have been around, and as I talked about Ringer, they were one of the first doing long distance recording with an app. For a
hmm,
very long time, they were the only one, what I knew about, and also to build that technology. But then, of course, new have come around and competitors, and then you could be happy with your market share, of course. And then, as I said, fine tune it. You don't have to do everything.
yeah.
And then you have
Hey,
bigger companies that have more resources, that have their, how should I say, their pressure and demand that they should really show results. Do
yes.
you dare to comment on anything about this?
Well, that I think you gave the answer. I think that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is, right? So, see, listen, I am, this is Boomcaster is my own company. I am the
Yep.
sole founder. I have no pressure from any investors, and I would like to keep it that way. I've not taken any money from anybody. So, the success and failure of this venture is mine and mine only, right? So I am not being pressured by anybody to sell more or do this or do that or expand or have more subscriptions and things like that. So you know it in some way, that's also caused me to focus on the product more than just trying to figure out how to have an expansive user base. But right now I would say we've gotten to a stage where we feel very good about the product, and I need to do more of marketing, and that's not been a focus of mine, right? So as you asked me earlier in the session, hey, you're not getting out there and nobody knows you, and nobody knows, not enough people knows about the product, and it is true. So if anything, that is my biggest challenge, is not many people know about Boomcaster. But on the flip side, like you said, Ringer and others, like, I want competition. That's perfect. I mean,
Mm.
I would love for all of our podcasting community to know that there are other tools that are available for them to record in super high quality, right? And whether they choose us or somebody else or Boomcast or whatever, that is immaterial. If they were to, if they were to know that there is a difference in the quality of audio coming and video coming out of an application or platform like Boomcaster and Zoom, that's a good start. But right now our biggest challenge is that most people don't recognize or realize the difference and don't
Mm.
know the difference. And so there's a little bit of education that needs to happen in the industry, and as people learn more about it, they suddenly like open to, oh wow, okay, so that is a big difference. That
Mm.
is a night and day difference. I mean, 20 times compression rates. So it's
Mm.
like Zoom just kills it in terms of quality. So kills it in the negative way. It
Yeah.
compresses such a small file that you don't get the details in the sound. And especially in a podcast, in a podcast, people are listening to you very closely. Sound is very intimate, and the quality is super important. And
Yeah.
you're competing against studios and professionals that have good quality audio systems, good editing workflows. And so at minimum, what you should do is get off of Zoom, right? That's that. And you pick any of my competitors or Boomcaster, doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
I would say that is your first step.
Yeah. And that's good, and to get out there. And when we have this technical thing and to use it, so the non-techie person or layman or the enthusiast could start. And there we have it. When Marcos was showing his studio and what he was doing with guests and prepping them, that was impressive also. But it also
Yes.
takes time and to be prepared and maybe to send like microphones in via mail and so on. And that's what I liked with Ringer also. If you had like a headset, like the simple earbuds that it has a thread, how do you say, the cord with the microphone
Yeah.
that's included in the iPhones and so on, then it would sound good.
Yeah.
So,
Very simple, right? Any type of headphone would just simply
but
make.
but how do you see that now? When now I interrupted you there, so we'll see about the echo cancellation.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but uh, if you have like a gaming set or you have a set that is very good for talking on a phone and very you could work freely and so on, but it is using this USB or have a cable, but it's
Yeah.
not like what I am having. I mean, now you don't see my mouth movements, and maybe that's you could be an advantage, it could be a disadvantage, but I like it to have a concert like this. Later on I will have a, that was also Danny Brown that gave me a tip about this boom arm that you could have
Yeah.
like under called, and I'm a cat person, called El Gato or something like that.
Yeah.
So I will, but that is also investment and then how to hook it up and so on. But again, then if you have a guest or a co-host, and what should you think about and invest? Do you have any, I mean, without maybe naming brands or whatever, but do you have any recommendation there for future users of your service, or if I will come on a show as a guest or maybe a
Yeah.
co-host?
Yeah, I think at a bare minimum, there should be something that separates your audio and video, meaning like don't speak into the speaker of your laptop, right? Or
Yeah.
the speaker and the mic that's built in. Use some sort of a headphone. That would be the bare minimum,
Yeah.
just to make sure that the quality of the local recording is high. Um, but if you're going to step up a little bit, you can look at my mic here. I don't know what you spent on it, Mike, but that Mike Martin, but mine is just $80 and it's an ATR. Very common. You can Google,
Yeah.
what are the top used mics, and
Mhm.
this would be
Yeah.
one of them. And it's under $100,
Mm.
and just buy a headphone that either plugs into that or um, let me see, there's a color difference here. Yeah,
Yeah.
plug into that, or um, just make sure that it's you have another headphone that plugs into your laptop.
Yeah.
So regardless, some way to raise the quality of your audio would be good, because that that's going to make a difference, right? The type of hardware that you use to capture the audio is going to make a difference. Um, Boomcaster cannot improve the quality of what's coming into Boomcaster, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the mics come in.
Yeah, and this is what it's a learning thing also. As I joked and said something with Martin Morrison of Podfriend, he has recently bought a microphone. And when he said, I said, you probably have a mic with your name on it, but maybe you don't know it, what kind of voice and sound you have. And so the one that you mentioned is a standard and good, very good quality. The one that I have is Rode, and it's very, I like the style of it, and it's pretty handy, and
Mm,
it's easy to use. And then you could connect it with several ones into your computer if you would be not doing live but sitting in a room. So that's
yeah,
why I picked that. But I have had played around with all different kind of microphones. So that's something to think about for the future. But then you also really how friendly or like Podfriend to adding a feature. I don't know how much demand it was on it, but I told you about that I don't want, of course, I do editing as little as possible. I want to have a raw thing, but I want to, if we
Yeah.
have our ticks or pauses that are too long, so to speak, you could remove it. But the editing program that I'm also doing post production and could also do a simple recording if it's needed. So it's all the two. It's interesting. They have even now a hosting service. I mean, it's not their main feature, but in a way, you could do everything in all the two now. And it's created by Colin Gray, that is a podcaster since a long time. Have written great content about
Yeah.
podcasting. The podcast host, and
Yeah.
he has now created this online community. So, and also built for non-tech people. So there you have it that you could have, like in Ringer, you could get in several, how do you say it, tracks or files or whatever. But when you put it in, and you, same here at you, in order to, it is like one track.
Yeah.
And if it's everything working as it should, then it's no problem. Of course, if it's something happen at the same time, then it could be a challenge. But you created this. Could you explain a little bit about that? Because you have a web recording also
Yeah.
that is good enough, but then you
Yeah.
have a studio quality with the different tracks. But you recently added a feature that I was asking for in a way. I don't know how many others are doing that, but
Yeah.
so could you tell a little about that background and story and how you
Yeah.
developed that?
So
So
this is unique.
thanks for that because I'm very happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you were, you didn't want to combine, and that's not unusual, right? I mean, it does take effort and time. So, backing up to provide a little
Yeah.
context, so Boomcaster records each participant as a separate track, right? And it's recorded locally, and then it is sent to Boomcaster Cloud that that the host can download, use their own software to combine, edit, and then of course um, publish,
Yep.
right? So what we added is the ability to take all of these files, and we will do our own composing for you, so it saves you that additional step of having to edit it. And then we will take all of the customization that you have in your studio, whether you added a logo or you added an intro, or you had some media that you played during the session. All of the things that you did during that session, we will capture, and the final output is going to have everything, and it will use local recording, which is I would say not impacted by any network challenges or network blips. It's going to be super clear audio, super clear video, and in high resolution. And so you will get a final output like you would get in a Zoom, but this time with a fully customized view that you chose, and it will be high quality. I don't know of any other application that does that today automatically with all the customizations.
Yeah.
And so we're excited about it. There's some other requests that we're getting to improve that further with, maybe, let's say, for example, you're in the session and you want to, let we have a producer view, which is some completely different than
Yeah,
the
what's
host view.
that? I asked you about that, and I once by mistake put that settings. So what's a
Yeah.
producer compared to a guest and a host?
Yeah, so a producer is someone who can monitor and control your session. And let's say you, as a host, want to assign a producer, and you don't want to manage or control who is who is who's doing what in the session. Is it going well? Is the audio correct? Are we getting all the feeds correctly? What chat, like chats coming from all these different live streams, you want to have someone else respond to it. Like we're building this entire persona that will not appear in the stream, will not appear in the recording. So the producer will not be recorded from an audio or a video perspective, but they can choose to come on the screen Like if they have a ability to come on the screen and give guidance to the host and the guest, and they can also show up as a little video box, but
Yeah.
they will not be recorded, and they
Wow.
will not be seen on the stream.
That's I didn't know. So you definitely have to do a guide blog post video or a podcast episode about this. And now I heard the sound there. So, but
Yeah.
because this feature is it you have to have another Boomcaster account or is it included in the
Oh, it's
price?
included. It's
Okay,
included.
because business case here is Deborah and her partner is helping her and working with the behind the scenes and the technique before when she's setting up. She could do it herself also, but to have somebody, now we are
Yep.
going live, concentrating on what's happening,
Yep.
and then look at is LinkedIn as I did. Is LinkedIn up now, or is somebody saying something in the chat?
Yeah.
That's perfect. And I mean this could then I haven't done that also, and that's why you need to have episode video tutorials, blog posts, whatever, how you do, because I'm very maybe I'm, not scared of the wrong word, but
Yeah.
I'm using the standard and I like your t-shirt there and the logotype, the boom caster. But of course I could have Tea Party Media there. I could brand it by myself compared to
Yes.
like YouTube, then you have this YouTube thing, right? That's why Vimeo is a competitor, a strong competitor in that way. So I
Yeah.
really, when you about this feature, wow, I will tell Deborah about that. That's testing
Yeah.
out because then you could have Michael checking everything, and then to and I like the personal thing, the personality. If something happening, then he could pop up and say, "Hello, here's the producer or the tech guy, or whatever," or
Yeah.
saying shipping in and saying something is happening or whatnot. So,
Yeah.
or you could have like a moderator.
Correct. It's basically that.
Yeah.
Correct. You can think of that. Yeah. And the view or the interface for the producer is different, as you can tell. It's got all the controls. You can click on a video and see their devices and their volume, their loudness levels, and there's a it's producer is really meant to help, like you said, moderate and manage the session. They can also admit guests coming in, or if you want to pull somebody in into the session. See, as a host, if you want to really stay focused and not mess with buttons, and that would be a good option. Now if you have your clients, I know, Martin, you consult and you
Yep.
provide guidance to a lot of clients, and if you choose to help someone with a podcast and you want to remain in the background while they do their all you have to do is just when you create a session, there is a copy link option,
Mm.
and there's a drop down, and you can choose producer link and send it to you know anyone you want as a producer to the show, and they can log in, and you'll still have to admit them, so
Mm.
you will know as a host if there is a producer in the show, and if they've joined the show or not. So you can't some nobody can just come in without your permission,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's important to us from a
That's
security perspective.
that's great feature. Yeah, that's thanks for that. Yeah, that's giving me opportunities and potential things that you could talk about. Because
Yeah.
as I'm open with that, I'm an affiliate of your, and I used Danny Brown's affiliate link when I started,
Yeah.
and Deborah used mine when she is now testing, and that's a nice thing. If you something that you like, then you recommend for it, and if you get something for it, then that's even better, right?
Yeah.
But with this one, you could have potential clients that said, I don't want to mess with the technology, but I want to use this kind of service, but I want to have help. Then you could do that also.
Yes.
So we have to talk more about that because I see the
Yeah.
opportunities and different scenarios that you could use.
Yeah. We still haven't made the affiliate thing live. I mean, it is live
Yeah,
for very limited set of uh, uh, our friends and family of
yeah,
Boomcaster.
yeah,
It's still not published on the site, and I hope to do that soon.
yeah. So I really hear that we have lots of things to talk about. So on this teaparty.media, as I have it, what's your part in? Do you have any milestone that you soon will celebrate, and what will you drink then? What is your party drink?
My party drink.
Yeah.
Uh, I like whiskey. I like, uh, I
I
would
will
say
tell
bourbon.
Karin Coach then about that
Yeah,
because she likes whiskey and she knows
whiskey.
the
Yeah,
good stuff.
I
So
I
yep,
love bourbon and I
yep,
love Manhattan. I mean, sorry, not Manhattan's old fashioned.
yep,
Yeah, that's my favorite drink. Actually, I
yep.
had one last night.
A- And in my so-called network on LinkedIn with another, you could say that could do live stream called Easy Live. He has a Robert. He has a contact there that's very good at whiskey, and he has whiskey, like what I will do soon in tea cupping, like testing and so on. And I think he's doing video also. So this is very interesting that you have that interest because then you get this,
Yeah,
personal connection. So that we will talk more about. Now I got lots of ideas there.
more
So
ideas.
yeah, so that's the thing. Then you have to write it down as a new media advisor with digital things and social media. I like to write it down on pen and papers, and we have a podcast with that also called Pen and
I've been
Paper.
going back and forth on this writing versus typing thing. I will
Yeah,
say though, when you write it down, it seems we remember better.
yeah. It is with this memory thing. So, and talking about that, what's do you have any social media or that you are looking at right now or using on a daily basis or something that you are curious about?
Yeah, I am not super active as my personal account isn't
Mm,
super active on many of them, but I track. I'm one of those people that I'm always there, but
yeah.
I'm not like actively
You're a
posting.
lurker and business intelligencer
Yes,
or
I'm a
something like
lurker.
that.
I'm a professional lurker.
Yeah,
Because there are a lot of people out there that sharing a lot of great wisdom, and so I love it. I know you're very active on LinkedIn.
yeah,
um, you know it's I'm intrigued, right? All these this whole social media thing is, it just amazes me because every time you learn something new, and without this we wouldn't. But I
no,
can also see on the flip side it's a distraction, right? And it's
yes,
like too much of it is also a challenge. But yeah, I haven't really done personally a lot. But I probably should. And it's part of the challenge that I have with is I haven't really gotten out there much,
yeah,
and that also could help Boomcaster a little bit if I did.
yeah. And now I got another idea, and that's a shout out to Niklas of Heartland, their community tool, online community tool. That is very,
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yep.
yeah. I mean, when you see your product and see their product, you could see that the design and layout and style, it's very clean, fresh, and again, like all it do is they're using a good service called Circle, I think it's called,
Yes, I've used that.
and it's a similar, you could
Circle.so,
say, a
right?
competitor with that, but they are again, it's friendly competition, it's a market there, and when I got to know him by a podcast also about digital marketing in Swedish, and when I heard about this, and I contacted him and reached out to him, and then I started to test the tool, and now I see what you could use it for. So, for example, Alito has a special room on this circle called called the Podcraft. So it's open for everyone, but then we have a special room for users of Alitu. So this similar you could do in Heartland, for example. You could have about this, fusion about podcasting, and again you have to repeat the what do you call it? Video
Yeah, video
podcasters,
casting,
video
broadcasting.
cast, yeah,
Yeah,
e-casting, and
yeah.
then live streaming and podcasting, and then now live podcasting with adding this value for value. I mean,
Hmm.
talk about these things, but also about branding, marketing, what you could use it for. I
Yeah.
mean, I see, and I will do last year a shout out to Small Business Trends and Sean Hessinger that I had the honor to be a short, like 15 minutes of a small biz and talking about podcasting for small business owners and so on. And that was interesting because when you get the questions, you get the answers. But it's very easy to get into your your bubble. And
It's
there
true.
on an online community, you could talk about this kind of thing. So definitely have to. send you some information about that, and you could check
Yeah,
it
that'd
out.
be
So,
awesome.
and we will do a follow up. But do you have any ending words or thoughts about this? What's coming in podcasting, the new podcasting you said, or development of podcasting, like podcasting 2.0? This live item tag probably is an episode as it is by itself. But do you have any thoughts about that, or reaction or comments or
Yeah, I think that's of
anything popping up?
yeah, that's of really high interest to me. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
we're launching a couple of things in the next. So we have like a development cycle usually of like 3 weeks or so, and we launch something or the other. We had, you may not notice them, but we are always doing something every 3 weeks,
yeah,
maybe typically. And so we have an update coming this Monday, Tuesday. You'll see some changes in the dashboard. And then we are launching a new couple of new plans, a smaller plan, $1.10 plan, and a $35 plan. And so now we're launching annual plans and things like that. And so that's coming out probably in about 2 weeks or so from now, 2 to 3 weeks. But I'm thinking about, well, we're working on as well on some other areas. And, this podcasting 2.0 is of high interest to me. And I'm in the process of assessing the development load on it and try to figure out whether we can. So really, I mean, I think if I can enable that, because very few podcasting tools or platforms today allow live streaming, right?
mhm,
Um, so maybe my direct competitors don't really offer live streaming. So it would be a good opportunity for podcasters to kind of check a box and go live
mm,
on that platform. But again, I have to assess the workload. And like I said previously, it's somewhat of a linear approach for me. It's one or the other, right? If I pick something else is going to go fall off the shelf.
yeah,
But it's of really high interest to me, and I think I want to be able to support this community as much as I can, and if I can enable that in any way, that'd be awesome.
great. Yeah, again, check out this podcastindex.social. That's the, you could say, community on online community on Mastodon
Yeah,
for podcasters and others. So that's something that you could check out, and then reach out to some of them and or follow them as you're doing and see what could come up, because again it will collide in a positive way, and it will merge and getting things out of it. And again, thanks for creating these kind of tools, Harry, so we
well,
could
thank
uh, we
you.
could spread the message,
I
and
I love doing it.
share the good stuff,
Yeah, I love
including
doing
tea.
it. I'm
Yeah,
passionate about it. I mean,
yeah,
folks like yourself is the reason why I continue doing it and continue working on it. So thank you for your support. I really appreciate that.
yeah. Thank you very much, Harry. And yeah, with that said, I think I will drink my last drop of tea here. So
All
cheers,
right. Cheers.
and bye for now.
See ya.
And that we have to now doing an addendum. You, of course, where could the listeners find you? We have said Boomcaster. It's pretty easy to search for, but please tell them where they could find you in cyberspace, Harry.
Yeah. So if you search for the Boomcaster or Boomcaster on Twitter, you're going to come to the Boomcaster page
Yeah,
or the Twitter landing zone.
yeah,
You can also find us on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. It's Hari Gopalakrishna. It's Gopalakrishna,
yeah,
Gopala
yeah,
Gopala
yeah,
Krishna.
yeah.
We were talking about the pronunciation
Yes,
earlier a little bit, right? So
it's
it's two
almost as
letters at a time.
difficult as Lindeskog. The
Yes, yes,
transcript is, have a
yeah,
challenge. You have that also, a transcript
yeah,
feature. So I really have to
yes,
say my last name in a special way to catch it up, but it's funny.
yeah.
So,
Well,
and
I
of
had
course, yeah,
the real time captions on while you were talking, just to kind of figure out the accuracy levels and so on. And I'm finding it to be pretty accurate. It's
yeah,
automatic, but it's real time too, right? So yeah, we did that because we wanted to make sure that it's supporting folks that need, either language
Yeah.
barriers or need.
So that I definitely have to test, and so I will come back to you again with all the features and see how you could test it in different ways in different sessions, and take one step at a time and see what's
Cool.
the reaction and feedback and so on about that. So that's good. And of course, if you want to support my work, you could use my affiliate link. I often use that as a like information at in the show notes, how I produced or recorded and doing the editing and so on, and the tools. I know you again, Captivate is very good of that, how you could prepare like
Yeah.
research and show notes and links. But then it's also you find your own style and see what's working and not. And this is here is the challenge to test this. You it's fascinating when you come up with ideas. How much should you get into the show notes? How much will show up? I had this example with Podfriend. Now I'm babbling here, but I did over 70 links. So when on the podcast player, that it cut off after 25 or something like that. And then more say, oh, maybe I have something there settings, but I could of course open it. But it's not so often that you have so many. And Danny
Right.
Brown has written about that also, how you do it in a, you find your personal style, but also for the listeners, for the viewers,
Yeah.
and so on. So it's things that I'm thinking about, but then you have to test it and see what's working and so on. So that's great to put that into also, because you have people who are interested in that also. What kind of tools have you used and so
Yeah.
on. So yeah,
Yeah. Shout out to Danny Brown and
yeah,
Captivate team, right? I mean, I love Captivate myself, and I
yeah.
I use them also. Yeah.
That's that's great to hear, and we will talk soon again then, Harry.
All right. All right.
Bye for now.
See you. Bye.
And now we'll